Welcome to Let Jesus Drink Wine.
And other stories that kept us stuck. I'm Mead.
And I'm Christy.
In this podcast, we'll explore the stories that kept us, well, stuck, wanting to drink and not wanting to drink all at the same time.
Join us as we show you that freedom from alcohol does not have to mean a life sentence of misery and missing out,
but actually means living an authentic life full of peace, joy, and purpose.
Welcome, y'all, to the podcast. We are so glad you're here, and we are so excited to share this conversation with you. Today, we have on our special guest and new friend, Michelle Myers. She is the founder of She Works His Way, a nonprofit discipleship community for working women that exists to strengthen the churches and stir one another up to love and good works. With the gospel as the foundation, Michelle helps put practical steps to the ultimate goal of working for the glory of God and the good of others. Most recently, she co-authored a book with her best friend, Summer Phoebus, called She Works His Way, a practical guide for doing what matters most in a get things done world. Y'all, so good. Run out and get that book. So good. She and her husband, James, live in Asheville, North Carolina, where James is the central discipleship pastor at Biltmore Church, and they live there with their 3 children, Noah, Cole, and Shay. I found Michelle through her podcast called She Works His Way when it was recommended to me by a friend. I've been listening for some time, and it's one of those podcasts that one of the few that the episodes I generally listen to more than once because they're so good. So much goodness in them that I want to go back to them. I want to circle back and pull out more things, or I archive them away and come back around. It's just so relatable. The conversations that she and Summer have are so relatable, jam-packed with just so much truth and wisdom and really, actionable, really just what we would call tiny Tinas, lots of tiny Tinas in their episodes. And so anyway, she was so gracious in accepting our invitation to come chat with you all here, and we are so grateful for that time. We enjoyed the conversation, and we hope that you all do as well.
Hello, ladies. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for being here. We're so excited to have you.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you guys for inviting me.
Oh my gosh.
So grateful.
We are so grateful. Yeah. So for the listeners that don't know who you are yet, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I live in Asheville, North Carolina with my husband, James. We have been married for 16 years and we have 3 kids. So we are not bored. Just graduated to a mom of a teenager. My oldest turned 13 in March. And then I have a 10-year-old boy and then a 7-year-old girl. So it is so much fun. My husband and I are on staff together at our church, which is so fun. And like the role that I've come into like in the last 7 or 8 months that I never thought that I would. And so just a reminder to let the Lord lead, because if this had been a matter of it needed to be on the dream board to happen, it would not have happened because it was not in my sight at all. But the Lord just made it so clear. And then I get to be in ministry with my best friend, Summer. We have a ministry called She Works His Way, which is the discipleship community for working women. And we really love encouraging women in the workplace, like in the marketplace and also in ministry. And so kind of have like 2 legs that we utilize to talk to those. But we co-wrote a book together during COVID, came out in 2021. And then we have commentaries as well that we hope just kind of spark conversations. And then we do a very similar format on our podcast that you guys do. We love having conversations that invite women in to talk about those issues, because everything that we really need to know, God has already said. And so it's just about going back to those reminders that are in his word over and over and over again.
So good. So good.
Can you define how y'all define working women?
Oh, yes. Okay. So work is anything a believer does that requires effort. And so this is not just a title or a position. This is anything that you do that you are like, I want this to be for the glory of God and for the good of other people. And so it makes it encapsulate so much more than just the job title. Because if you go into that compartmentalization mentality, then it can make it easy to show up with more effort in certain areas than in other things. But when you show up just knowing, I'm God's child. He's put me here. And no matter what the title is, what it says on the wall, or if I'm just here and I'm here as his daughter, that changes things. It changes the way that your attitude, it changes your perspective, it changes what you pay attention to, it changes what you care about. And so if you are like, I don't get a paycheck, I assure you, you still have to do things that require effort. And essentially, if we think about the basics of Jesus told us, he simplified the law when he said, hey, the most important commandment is that you love God and that you love others. I've not yet met a person that loves God and love others without effort. That requires some ambition. And so we need to just give our focus where it counts.
I love that you started with identity too, because I think that's something that for me, before finding freedom from alcohol, I had a lot of identities based largely on the roles I played also, and like the way I showed up for other people. And I would have said I was a Christian, but I wasn't really living for the kingdom, like a kingdom life. And I think about how when we're stuck in the drinking cycle, the identity, some of the things we can have that awareness for how we want to move past this. We want to figure this out. It is going to take some work. It's going to take some effort, but also like, what is my identity as I'm shifting all of this away? And we can know that we're daughters of the king, but it's different when we're actually stepping into that place. And I find that a nice landing place for folks starting this kind of journey is like, no, we get to rest on the one true identity that we have versus all of the masks that we wore, the role, all the things. And so I love that you started with that for our listeners.
Well, and that's the identity that you step into where you're never alone. And so you're not expected to do that in your own strength. You get to do it with your Father being right there and the Holy Spirit dwelling inside of you. And that is just such a gift.
There's so much freedom in that. So much freedom in that.
It's not all on you. Pressure off you. Pressure off.
So good.
I feel like that parlays so good into kind of talking about community. And one of the things that you write in your Philippians commentary is that unity with other believers is one of the essential things to completing our joy. So let's talk a little bit about why, because also like if we're putting this in the lens of like people that are looking at their drinking, which is can be one of the most isolating things ever and keeps you stuck and alone and in shame. Why is community so important?
Man, okay, so this goes all the way back to the garden. So if you go back to Genesis and you think about the perfect world that God created, think about that. Think about the mountains and the rivers and the oceans and the sunsets and all of these things, this perfect world. And every time that God created something, he would always say, it is good. And then he created man and he said that it was very good. But then he noticed that man was alone and he was like, that is not good. So lack of community was the first problem that he acknowledged that existed in the world that he created. And that was the first thing that he made an effort to fix. That has been his plan from the beginning before sin entered into the world. And so you see that thread of community all throughout. And if you think about how God tells us that we are to love one another, and by our love, we will be known as his disciples. That is an assignment that none of us can do in isolation. You can't just show up as yourself and be known as a disciple. It is by your love for one another that you will be known. It is such a foundational truth that we see threaded all throughout the narrative of Scripture. And so that's just a beautiful gift that God has given us. Think about 1 Corinthians 12 when it talks about how we function as a body. And so we've each been given certain gifts. And then we need other people to get those other gifts. And I think sometimes when you live in isolation, you are so aware of your weaknesses, not because you're supposed to possess all of those strengths, but because you're supposed to have other people in your life who have those strengths. We are literally not created to be able to function in this life by ourselves. We were created to need God and to need one another. And I love 1 Peter 4:10 talks about how we steward our gifts, and literally our gifts as we serve one another, they steward God's grace. And that always humbles me to my core to think that when I use my gifts that God has given me to serve someone else, that is an opportunity that he has given me, and he is allowing me to be a part of stewarding his grace. I
Mm.
don't deserve that. None of us deserve that. But he, in his goodness, wants us to be such an integral part of his mission in the world.
Yeah. So, so good. So is that, I mean, I know you have the ministry within church. Is this kind of the one of the reasons that you wanted to start your own with your own ministry with Works
Mm,
His Way? And is that, was that the motivation behind it? Or
you know,
tell us more about how that all got started.
it was so funny because I really didn't have intentions of it being a ministry. This was
Mhm.
4 friends on Google Hangout and just asking each other tough questions and talking about the things that Jesus was teaching us, and then talking about where we were struggling. And over the course of about 18 months of us meeting weekly at 5 a.m., that was the only time that we were all available. Imagine that nothing else conflicted at that time. It was a recognition at that point that other women needed to be invited to this conversation. And so
Mhm.
at that time, the best way to do that was with an Instagram account. And it was obvious, because I am not an Instagram expert, that women were hungry for that conversation. And they wanted a safe space to be able to talk about these things that they were struggling, and to be able to have those reminders in front of them. Summer and I always talk about how we don't really ever say anything new. We simply just offer a reminder that your soul recognizes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
When you hear like a foundational truth of God's word, it's not like just, a meme that makes you laugh, or even like a truth bomb that you scroll past. Like, it hits you at the soul level. And so that's really what we aim to do. We just aim to be really good reminders. And because God's word never returns void, you just let that come in. But to be able to see just a beautiful picture of what God has done, because I do think that in certain areas and places in life, it's almost like your differences are highlighted. And what we have
Mhm.
gotten to see at She Works His Way is there's not really a difference between the battles that a stay-at-home mom has versus a working mom, or a
Yeah.
mom that works from home versus a mom that works in corporate America, or
Mhm.
a mom that has a service job, or a mom that's in network marketing. Like, literally, we are more the same than we
Mhm.
are different when we focus on the things that we have in common. That's been the beauty of the community, is you don't know what you don't know. And so we thought that we were talking mostly to business owners when we first started. And then we started getting organizational leaders. We started getting executive assistants. We started getting people that had a job in a nonprofit. We started getting people that were volunteer at their church. Like, all of the things, the foundational truths that we were talking about transferred no matter what seat you had and where God
Mhm.
had placed you. And so I think that has been so beautiful, is God's word really does unify,
Mhm.
which is pretty rare. When you have a community that is really rooted in that, you get to see the way that God designed community to be. It doesn't mean that it's not hard. It doesn't mean that it's not perfect, but it is awesome to see on display what he can do versus when we just show up as ourselves.
So good. You had said that this was something you didn't see coming, like stepping
Mhm.
into, like, so like you didn't have on your bingo card that this is where you would be in in your life. And I can just so relate to that, because I did not have on my bingo card at all that this is what I would be doing as a result of getting
Me either.
unstuck. Yeah, unstuck
Yeah.
from the drinking cycle. And what I love is what you said too, and the fact that, like, there's some foundational truths that bring us all together. It doesn't really matter the roles are and the places that we're in, but there's some foundational truths. And I'm thinking about how whatever our journeys are, whether it's becoming unstuck from, the alcohol, the wine cycle, or whatever, I guess what I'm asking is for more of your backstory, like more of like your journey. How did you end up turning it into this place, like on the bingo card where you're working at the church with your husband?
Literally just a conversation, and a conversation that I walked into with my pastor, and I walked in with like my hands open, and it was just like, I want to I want to talk about this. And Lord, like, I want what you want. And I walked out of the room and went to my husband's office and I was like, I think I work here now. I don't, you know, and he, neither one of us were ready for that. But it's just such a beautiful thing when you walk in and you let the Lord lead and you put your agenda down and listen, like, this is hard for me. Like, I am not a natural, I always have a plan. And if plan A doesn't work, I probably have a plan B and a plan C and a plan Z. Like, I probably have it all planned out. And this was the situation that I just was like, I don't know what the Lord wants. I just know that I'm supposed to be obedient. I'm supposed to ask a couple of questions. And Lord, I'm going to trust that you're going to be clear. And it has been so beautiful to watch him. And he really does. He writes such better stories than we do. And I think this is one that I have wrestled with multiple times. Like, just so I don't even know that we've talked about this, but I had an eating disorder. And I would actually be very, very curious to know if some of the negative thought patterns and compulsive actions and not wanting to stay stuck in that cycle, but not knowing how to get out of it, there's probably a lot of tie in there from
Oh,
what
yeah.
I struggled with and what you guys struggled with. And that was actually something that I realized. I wrote a book about my eating disorder, and I never thought that it would help people beyond those that struggled with an eating disorder, but I would constantly talk to people because it was an addiction
Mhm.
and it was an idol.
Mhm.
And so when people have an addiction that's an idol, it doesn't really matter at that point what the addiction is and what the idol is. The solution is the same.
Yeah.
And so that's just the Lord. He's just so good.
Yeah. It's so funny because when you said that, it reminded me of just like how Mead and I, we sometimes say that alcohol's kind of just been like the gateway, right? It's like, it's the thing that we started talking about first
Yeah.
to relate to other women that are going through something similar, but then it just gets to open up to so much more.
Yeah.
In your Philippians commentary, like and it ties into what you just said. I love how you write about the Philippians 4 verse and the peace that exceeds understanding, that we don't need more understanding. What we need is more faith. And it ties
Oof.
into what you just said. And I like circled that and highlighted it 100 times because it, like, I had always, associated the peace that surpasses all understanding with the peace, but it's the understanding. We don't need any understanding, right? For
Right.
any of it. And I was like,
Right.
I actually don't even need to understand anything to have this peace. I don't know. Something about the way that you word it in the commentary just like nailed it for me. Will you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, peace is a person. And,
Yeah.
that's even saying it as you need more faith, that still feels intangible. Well, how do I get that?
Yeah.
How do I get
Yeah.
more faith? And the
Yeah.
answer is more Jesus.
Yeah.
Go straight to him. Don't go
Mhm.
to any other supplements or any other thing. Go straight to him. He allows us to have access to his presence whenever we want it. And so don't settle for the counterfeit. Don't settle for the halfway. Go straight to him for the things that he offers to you freely and soak them up and watch how that dramatically transforms the way that you see things, the way that you want, and what you want. Like, he can do that. We can't. And so if you try to put it as a checklist, like, okay, I'm going to have more faith. I need less understanding, I need more faith. Then you probably will find yourself in the same hamster wheel eventually.
Mhm.
And so it's just that reminder of going directly to Jesus. I think about that Matthew 11 of he says, come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give
Mhm.
you rest. And so it's that specific, just come straight to me. Come straight to me. You've got burdens, you got heavy things you're carrying, lay them down. You were never meant to carry that. And so put it down, come to me, and I am going to give you rest. It doesn't say I'm going to give you an answer. It doesn't say I'm going to fix it. It doesn't say any of those things. It just says, I am going to give you exactly what you need, but you have to come to me to get it.
Yeah.
So, and that's like at any time, all the time. Like, and it's not just a one time.
Yes.
It's an often.
Yeah.
It's an every day, every minute, every hour. Like, it just depends, but it's coming. Jesus, I'm coming back to you. I'm giving this to you to again. I'm sorry I picked it back up. This is yours. I don't want to carry this anymore. Please carry it. And please forgive me for picking it back up again. But
Yeah.
yeah, peace is it's it's a word, it's a longing that everybody wants. But then it's like the thing that we need to do to get it is so easy and so accessible that we try to make it harder. Like as humans, like we are just natural complicators. And the Lord is like, I am trying to make this as simple for you as I possibly can. I literally, Matthew 6:33 is like our anchor verse as a ministry. We always come back to it where he just says, seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and then all these things will be added to you. And so it's not a matter of you need to order everything and make sure that you get everything in the right order. God just says, hey, listen, you seek me first. And if you will put me first, then I'm going to put everything else in your life in its proper place. But it's just a question of, because if you think about the moments when your life feel the most chaotic, I guarantee you it's not because thing 3 and thing 7 have been switched. It's because affection number 1 has been misplaced. And so just that you have that one thing, it's just that one thing. And if we would do that one thing, it would solve everything else and he would add everything else. And so if there's anything that I've learned, I'm really, really bad at God's job. I'm not good at it. And I don't think, and none of us are. None of us are good at his job. He's really good at it too. That's the other. So we need to do our job because he's given us one. He's graciously given us a job to do in his work in the world. But we need to stop trying to do his job. He's much, much better at it.
So true. One of the stories that kept me stuck for a long time, 6 years ago before, was that like I need to do more. I need to fix this, to solve this. I just need to do this differently or better or more or like, and it kind of creates that striving and that always, which I love. Like, it's such a breath that I could have even heard this 6 years. I could have heard you saying this maybe 6 years ago too. And I would still have been like, yeah, but you say that, and the Bible says seek for, okay, but like, what does that mean? But now that I know that literally there's nothing else I have to do, there's such a lightness and a freedom in that. And so I love that you painted that picture for our listeners who probably too can feel that. Like, if we're not starting with him first, Jesus focus first, then eventually, I mean, it's not going to work and you're going to end up burnt out and frustrated and spinning and all the things.
Everything's out of order. If he's not first, everything's out of order.
This is the perfect transition, you guys, into this other part of the commentary that I wanted to mention, which I was obsessed with, which you write that the secret of learning to be content, the world's way, focus on what you don't have that you want to get and can't keep. Christ's way, focus on what you need that you have and you can't lose. Jesus. I love it so much.
I mean, that's the secret. But here's the beauty of that verse. He says, I have learned to be content. And so
practice.
Contentment is something that we have to learn. And so it takes intentionality to renew your mind and to create a new way of thinking. But contentment is something that you can learn. Take the time and practice it and learn it. Because this is the thing that's so crazy about the way that we're wired as humans, is anything that we think that we need outside of Jesus, you'll get it. And then you'll be more dissatisfied than you were before you got it. Because none of the things that we try to use to satisfy us other than Christ's work. And so it creates an even emptier feeling than you not getting it. And so it's like just this vicious cycle that we go through all the time. And then even the things that we thought that we wanted, like, what do you do when you get what you need? Like, do you magically become content? Like, think about anything that you've ever gotten that you thought that you needed, if it magically worked, or if you thought of something else you needed. Like, we just create a new list.
It's a trap.
Like, that's the thing that we go through. And so we just got to make Jesus the list.
Yeah.
And if we make Jesus the list, then we're never disappointed. And he gives better gifts than we are capable of imagining on our own. I mean, he literally tells us in his word that he can do more than we can ask or imagine. And so literally what he is capable to give us, he is better. To the most ambitious person listening, Jesus's ideas are better. his plan for your life is better than you're capable of being ambitious for. So much better.
Responding to the heartfelt requests from you, our wonderful, wonderful listeners, for a deeper sense of community, we are so excited to introduce y'all to the But Jesus Drink Wine community.
Get ready to be part of an exclusive experience where you'll join a sisterhood of kindred spirits on a transformative journey of faith, sobriety, and personal growth.
You'll gain access to our private community, a place where deep connections can flourish among women who share your aspirations of strengthening faith in Christ and breaking free from alcohol.
But wait, there's more. We'll host regular connection calls to facilitate fellowship with like-minded gals, no matter where you stand on your alcohol or faith journey. Whether you're seasoned or just curious, you are very warmly welcomed here.
Prepare to be inspired by guest expert sessions and engaging Q&As that explore the essential topics for your sobriety, faith, and holistic wellness journey.
Don't miss out on securing your spot. Click the link in the show notes to learn more.
We can't wait to see your beautiful face in the But Jesus Drank Wine community.
So true. Oh, it's so, so good. One of the things that I love that y'all do, because what we aim to give here too are some like practical tools for like, how can I take assessment for where I am in my life? What is flowing from my Jesus focus and what is not, and what needs some work on, like the part that does need my action or my intention. And your red, yellow, green assessment is just brilliant and so it's so helpful. I was wondering if you could share with our listeners that assessment so that they could use it as a little inventory.
I absolutely can. So I need to take zero credit for this because this is all Summer's brainchild. This is the way that Summer's brain works. She is a master evaluator and she asks the best questions. The thing that this also does is this allows for honesty without explanation, which is the biggest gift of this inventory to me. Because when somebody asks me a pretty deep question, like, okay, how are you relationally? Or how are you feeling spiritually? How are you feeling mentally and emotionally? How are you feeling physically? Sometimes I know how I'm feeling, but I can't put any other words to it. Or I don't want to explain it until I can like put the Jesus bow on it to where I'm like, okay, listen, but sometimes Jesus is the solution for those things. And so I don't necessarily need to come to anybody else to fix it. I just need somebody else praying with me. Yeah. I just need somebody else offering me some encouragement. If you are in a position, this works phenomenal with friends. This works with coworkers. This works with spouses. This works with kids. You just ask these simple questions. So there's 4 of them. The first one is we check on people spiritually, because the reality of it is if you're like, oh, and by the way, so the red, yellow, green is like synonymous with a stop sign. If you say I'm red, that is just hard stop, not good, not healthy, don't need to move on, no collecting $200, I'm out. And then yellow is like, we should have a caution light on this. Like, as far as whether I go forward or whether I need to take a step back, I'm not sure. Something's not quite right. And then green is like, dude, we are smooth sailing. This is good. I am grateful. Things are awesome. Thank you so much. And then in between, we find that people create their own in between colors. We've heard people that say things like, I'm yellow leaning green, or I'm yellow leaning red, or they'll say I'm orange, or I'm, like they just create. So listen, feel free to be as creative with this as you need to be. Take as much freedom with it, but don't pressure anyone that you ask, including yourself, for more answers than a color, because sometimes you just need to be able to know how to pray. You don't have to offer any explanation yet. If you start spiritually, how are you spiritually? So like, how is your walk with the Lord? How is your affection for him? How is your time with him? Are you making time for him? And then sometimes you can ask yourself those questions to where I ask myself, I always ask that one first, because if that one is green, it's really okay. If there's reds anywhere else, it's going to be okay. If I'm staying close to the Lord, we can get through anything else. But also, if I'm yellow or red in that area, I probably can't even trust any of my other answers in the other categories.
Mhm.
And so I'll at least give myself that disclaimer to where I'm like, might not be in the best frame of mind to answer these questions right now. So how about I recognize that if I'm red here, that explains all of the other reds. And
Yeah.
so there's no need to dig any further. I just need to get myself back to the place of my first love. And that's going to make everything else move in the right direction. So red, yellow, green,
Good.
spiritually, and then move physically just because why not go to an easier one. And this one is fun because we ask two things. Like, how does your body feel? Like, because you guys, it's a real thing. It's a real thing to actually take inventory because your body, this is so terrible to say, but like once your body stops growing, it starts deteriorating. And
Like,
so
perimenopause has hit me really hard, you guys. I
test
get it.
testify. Okay. And what used to work
Yeah.
doesn't work. And so you got to do some constant reevaluating and making some changes. And so paying attention to those things, because if you don't, I feel like I am exhibit A on this. If you don't and you just ignore all of your body's cues, there's a book that's called The Body Keeps Score, and it kind of talks about like your stress. And like I haven't even read the book, you guys, but I don't feel like I have to, because
Yeah.
like just the title of it, and I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense. I have tension in my neck. Okay, well, what could that possibly indicate? Am I carrying and holding things that I'm not supposed to? Am I, like it just it makes you ask the right questions. But then we also ask, especially if you're dealing with women, of how do you feel about your body? Because that can trip a lot of women up. And sometimes your body can feel okay, but you cannot feel okay about your body. And
Mhm.
you need to have a space where you can talk about that. And I have yet to have a woman who is offended that I asked her that question. And
Yeah.
so, even though some people might not struggle with it as much as others, sometimes that's a question that doesn't commonly get asked. That
Mhm.
when you take the time to ask it to the right person, the amount of vulnerability and just what the Lord can do is so big. So then we
So
move
good.
from physical over to the emotional and the mental category. And that is just literally like, okay, how's your heart? How's your head? Is there a disconnect between the two? Because sometimes I go through things where I'm like, okay, my head knows the things that are to be true, but my heart has not quite caught up yet. I need to reconcile the difference between those two. Consider maybe your stress level. Maybe for you, it's not sleeping. Sometimes people, they know that they're like emotionally and mentally not okay if their sleep is disrupted. Other people, it's your focus, paying attention to those things. And again, this is not permission to let your feelings lead. Your
Mhm.
feelings are indicators. They're not always true. And so
So
we
good.
don't take our feelings to be truth, but your feelings are indicators, and they're at least things that need to be acknowledged. And so
Yeah.
and they're real. Even if they're not true, they might be real. Sometimes you need to look at something. And for me, even writing this evaluation down and doing this on paper, I can think a thought in my head and be so held captive by it, and then the second that I see it on paper, I'm like,
Yes.
that is a lie.
So true.
That
Yeah.
is such a lie. And so I can't reconcile it when it just stays here. But when
Yeah.
I speak it out loud to someone else or I write it down, then I can put it back in its proper place of letting it be an indicator, but just not letting it drive. Like it's your feelings are kind of like the toddler of your flesh. And
Mhm.
so, it's toddlers are great. They are real. We just don't let them drive.
Right.
You know, we
Right.
just we
Yes.
just don't let them drive. And then last, relational. You can do this in many different ways. Some people just kind of across the board, like how's my people tank? How am I feeling? Do I feel like I have a safe place and good relationships and people that pour into me and that encourage me? Like, how am I doing on that? How am I making space for that in a very, very busy life? Do I need to create more time? Maybe my husband and I need another date. Maybe I need to have a dinner with friends. Maybe my kids and I need to go do something fun outside of just the normal responsibility, to actually invest in that relationship. And so you can do it collectively, or you can go through it individually with the people that are most important in your life. But I think this is the one transparently that when I'm going through this inventory with other people, this is probably the one other than spiritual that can like make or break people,
Mm.
because we talked about the importance of community. And the reason why we need to have that conversation isn't because we don't know it's important, but we don't often do what we know that is important. And so
Yeah.
just because we know it's important doesn't mean that we act on it. And isolation and busyness, like they are becoming more and more the norm.
Mhm.
And you were just not created to be able to thrive in isolation, and that is for your good. If you're going through this evaluation, you are probably blaming other things in your life for the reason why you feel sad and miserable, when really probably just need to invest a little bit more in your relationships, lean into community a little bit more, because there's an entire piece of you that if you are not leaning into that is missing. And it is a key, critical piece to how God made you. Don't skip that one. Don't minimize that one. Don't think that you're in a season where you don't need it. I promise you that season in your life doesn't exist. You might have seasons in your life where you have to be a little bit more intentional, or it's a little bit more difficult, but it still matters that you figure it out. And
Mhm.
so don't put that one on the back burner. Don't let that one stay red. And then sometimes even too, just writing them down, there's certain things that you can't change. Like when we're talking about like that physical, like you may have some physical limitations. You may have something that you're working through in your health, and you can't change that red. You can't just magically make it green. There's no magic pill that's going to fix it. But if you just know, hey, this is the area of my life where I need to bring some people in. I need some people praying for me. I need some people helping out in this area. Then there are other solutions other than just making that one go green. There are, so you can use this collectively, but here's what I will tell you. The way that this evaluation works is if you do the whole thing in its entirety. This is not a choose your own adventure. You cannot just pick the ones that make you comfortable or the ones that you think that you're going to pass.
Yeah.
You got to make yourself do the whole thing, because you are a human being. And these are all facets of being human. And this is probably the thing that I have found myself saying on repeat since COVID, because women have historically, I feel like our gender martyrs ourselves a lot. We
Mhm.
will push ourselves past our limits. We will neglect eating healthy. We will neglect exercise. We will neglect sleep. Like we will neglect all of these things that are very real human limits that God gave us to live in while we're in these bodies. And through COVID, I feel like when stress got added on top of that, and social media got added on top of that, and there's all of these other things that have gotten added on top of it, we cope less and less in healthy ways.
Yeah.
And so, how do you take this information and utilize it to take the right steps forward, understanding that God did give you limits and that those limits are for your good? You don't actually need more hours in the day. You don't actually need to do more. You need to work within and live within the limits that He gave you. I read a book and I thought I was reading it preventatively. You ever pick up those books
Oh,
to where
yeah.
you're like patting yourself on the back because you're like,
Yeah.
I'm doing this right. But it was a book that was called Leading on Empty by Wayne Cordero. And he's a pastor who got burnt out in Hawaii. And I am like a beach girl through and through. And so I'm like, how does one get burnt out in Hawaii? Like that is that is very, very special and very specific. So I bought the book, and I literally like I didn't think very much before I bought the book. I was just like, oh, that's probably one that I'll need at some point. And so I'm gonna just pick that up and I'll read it. And I wasn't even planning on reading the book. I was just like, I'm gonna open it and I'm gonna like read the first page and just kind of see where it goes. And in that first paragraph, what he said was, you probably don't forget that you're a Christian. Like if you're reading this, because it was written to Christian leaders. He said, so you probably don't forget that. He's like, but you probably forget that you're human. And that
Mhm.
one thing, forgetting that you're human, will be the one thing that will either limit or allow you to sustain the pace of ministry for the long haul. And so I read that sentence. My eyes got super, super, super wide. And I texted Summer, my ministry partner, and I texted my husband, James. I put them on the same thread too, which was dangerous because the combination of accountability between the two of them, both knowing. And I was like, I sent them just like that picture of that page with that sentence highlighted. And I was like, you guys, I thought that I was reading this preventatively. I am not. I am not okay. I have not remembered that I am human. I don't know when the last time actually was that I thought about the fact that I'm human. I don't know what I need to do from here, but I just need you both to know that I'm reading this book and I need you to ask me questions. And both of you need to know that I'm not okay. And the best part is they were both like, how do we pretend like we don't, we're surprised.
Already know that.
How do we pretend like this is new information? I love that. And so they were super kind in the moment, but a couple of years removed from that, they were like, you should have seen the thread that you weren't on. They're both like, oh, praise God, she sees it. She knows. She knows. But this has been I go through this at the end of every month, kind of looking into the next month as just a way. And again, you guys, it's not that I've been doing this assessment for a while now and I always get all grades.
Yeah.
I don't. And I'm always surprised when I sit down and do this. Sometimes an answer surprises me. But here's the thing that I can encourage you with. Don't give a ton of energy to making everything else green. If you will just make sure that you are spiritually green, I promise you those other ones are gonna be better. Because I've had moments where my body has not been okay. But I'm literally like, it's not working, but I'm still green. It's okay. So
that's so good. And that's something that I love about this in particular. It's different than all the other assessments that are out there when, and the freedom from alcohol space is largely a secular world. And you would take an assessment maybe, but spiritual would come last. That's what and it's like,
Well, leave it there.
Yeah, if it was even there, correct. And then it was vague. Like, what does that even mean? But what I love is you're exactly right. And there's so much I think that's why when I learned about this, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much relief in this. This is an assessment I can actually use. Whereas before, 5 years ago, I would have maybe even used assessments as a way of not even having to do hard work, the work that I needed to really do. It was another distraction. Like, I'll just take this other assessment and I'll do this other assessment. And what do I even do with that? And now I have to work even harder because now here are all the categories where I'm also red. And so now I have more work to do. Whereas with this one, it's like, wait a minute. No, like starting with spiritual, if that's green, then I can look at these other things. But if that is yellow leaning red or red, then it's like full stop. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us and for walking us through how to kind of use that in a practical sense as well.
Yes. And like I said, this was 100% Summer. And the next level thing after you doing this for yourself that is super helpful is when you introduce this to other people, the vulnerability that it makes so easy is a game changer for your relationships. Because I can literally just text James or text one of my really close friends and I'd be like, hey guys, will you please pray for me? I don't have time to explain it, but I am mentally red and I'm about to have to walk into a meeting and I am not in a good headspace. And so will you please pray that I can go green in the next 30 seconds, and to know that I don't have to offer any further explanation and that we've already done the groundwork. It is so simple now. And so take it another step, utilize it with other people so that you can really be there for each other and you can do it by text. It's so simple. So Summer and I get to see each other once a year. And I can literally text her and and she can do the same for me. I'd be like, hey, this is red today. You can't do anything about it and it's fine. But would you just pray?
Yeah.
It is. And there's such a relief too. Because sometimes you guys know this. If you're red, you probably don't have the words. And so to know that somebody else can have them for you in those moments, it is that's the beautiful picture. It's the picture of the body. of when one part is weak, the other one can be strong. And
Mm.
so use it, but I'm telling you, it will only be as strong as it can possibly be if you are doing it alongside others.
Yeah. So good. Thank you so much for that. We talk so much about like the unmet need that women are, not realizing that they need when they're like opening up the wine bottle. And so this is just like another tool really to figure out like what is red. And then, as you
Yeah.
said, like share it as opposed to like numb it out or try
Yes.
to ignore it.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes, so much yes.
I also love the common language that it gives, like you said, to being able to like, hey, this is where I am. I don't have the time, to go into all of this, but and how it allows people to come alongside you without having to fix or solve. Because so often we, in our discomfort, want to jump in and try and save somebody from where they are, or fix it or solve it. Or so we
Right.
offer, solutions to these things where instead it's like, hey, if you can pray for me because I'm in this, then we're allowing God to do what he does best. We're getting the order right and allowing him to show up and
Right.
fix this for us and
Yes.
change it. And then we have this, I mean, it's just a beautiful picture. And it really like does happen that way. I think this is where I always go back to too. Like 5 years ago, I would have been like, yes, but like, does that, like, how does that really work? But now that it's a lived thing, it's more true.
I love that.
What would be, I mean, I guess we don't even really need a tiny new action. This is like
Yeah.
just a great solid
That's
action.
it. Right there. Right there. Do that assessment and don't do it by yourself. Boom.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're in our community, post your answers, share with us.
Yeah.
Like we would love to hear how you're doing.
I
Yeah.
love that. So much. So good.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you and all of your wisdom, and thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. It was a joy to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Can you please tell everybody where they can find you, and we will put it in the show notes as well?
Yes. Okay. So She Works His Way. If you will search that where you listen to podcasts, we have a podcast and a Patreon. I really love something we started in the Patreon this year. We do these daily episodes.
Oh,
They're
they're so good.
oh, you're so
They're
sweet.
they're good,
Oh,
like brushing your teeth, washing
yes.
your face in the morning. Yeah.
Yes. So much better than just like mindless scrolling to just get your heart positioned for the day and to just remind you of what matters most. And so I'm super excited about the daily episodes. So you can do that. We're also on Instagram. So you can search for the ministry at She Works This Way. I'm Michelle L. Myers. And so there's two L's in Michelle and then there's an L in the middle. So you can connect with me there. And even if I'm not posting, because I feel like I go through seasons where sometimes I'm sharing a lot. And then sometimes I just have a lot going on in the behind the scenes of my life, but I check my DMs every day. And so even if it doesn't look like I'm showing up there, I promise you I'll show up to my DMs for you. And so if I can pray for you or just offer a little piece of encouragement, that is my favorite part about social media.
Me too.
All about the direct message.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, in y'all's episode recently on social media and the conversation around obedience, y'all, please go straight to the podcast and listen to this because it is, I mean, it's just something that comes up all the time. And I've never had anyone explain it in a way that just, it feels freeing, not like, again, something that goes on the to-do list. Like now I've got to look at this, but a lot of people feel constricted by the relationship to social media. So y'all just walk through that so beautifully. I love, love, love it.
You're so sweet. Y'all are such a, we need to record y'all sound bites. Y'all sell us better than we do.
We love it. We love it. It's so
So
encouraging.
helpful.
I literally remember the day when I got Mead's Voxer was like, have you seen this podcast? I'm like, no, what is this? And now I'm like, have you listened to this episode? Have you read this one? Have you seen this?
I'm like,
So
you're welcome. I try not to binge anything anymore, right? Like, and I'm very careful about what I select and what I'm going to consume and all of that. And yours and the Being Known podcast by Dr. Kurt Thompson are the only two podcasts that I listen to the episodes more than once. Like when, and not like in a binge fashion, but like, oh, there was something there and I've got to come back to this because it, like you said from the beginning, it's reminding people of what is true that we already know that's true in our souls. But because we become what we pay attention to, if we're not paying attention to truth and we're not putting our eyes on that and being reminded of that, then I mean, we know where that leads because, hello, that's why we're,
And the
Okay,
world is
so-
loud.
yes.
And so you have to be really, really, really intentional to turn up the things that are
Yes.
truthful.
Yeah.
So true. I know. I was like, if we had like another 30 minutes, I would love to go into like why our emotions aren't true. And we could save that for another time. But yeah, because
Oh,
anyway, there's so many things. Yeah.
I love that. That's an important one. But I think,
Yeah.
for now,
Not today.
just don't
Not
let them
today.
lead. Just don't let them lead.
Yeah, that's right. Don't let them drive the car. Don't let the
right.
don't let the toddler drive the car, y'all. That never ends well.
Great passenger. Great passenger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so true. Thanks, Michelle.
Oh my goodness. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much for joining us again this week. You can find all of our episodes at butjesusdrinkwine.com and be sure to follow us over on Instagram, Love Life Sober, and I'm Not Sober, I'm Free. To learn more about what we do, you can visit our websites, meethollandshirley.com and lovelifesober.com. Take a screenshot of this podcast and share it with a friend or two. And don't forget to subscribe to our pod so you don't have to worry about missing a single episode. And if you love what we're doing, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. This helps more women who are feeling stuck and alone in the overdrinking cycle find hope and encouragement. Thanks, ladies. We so appreciate you, and we'll see you next Monday.